So as I said, my name is Debbie Carberry. I am a clinical social worker and I am based in Brisbane. Today's workshop is going to be about adjustment strategies and dealing with self-isolation, as well as mental health services that are available to you in Australia at the present time. Before I get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So as I said, I'm a clinical social worker. I am an online relationship coach. I work globally with people about their relationships. I have a private mental health practice in Brisbane, and I own a 5-room wellness centre in Brisbane. I'm also a mum. I've got 4 kids, 3 of which have returned home during COVID as young adults due to work issues. So I feel you, people. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 3 important things and then give you some strategies on how to manage those things. They are uncertainty, change, and adjustment, and also when you need to be a little bit concerned about how you're coping with things. As I said, I will take questions at the end if you'd like to ask me some questions. So let's begin with uncertainty. Our brains are hardwired to assess the environment and decide whether we are safe or not. If at any point in time our brain decides that we are actually in danger, it will set off the back of your brain, the reptilian brain, and it will help us to move to action. So fight, flight, or freeze. But the brain, unfortunately, is hardwired to overestimate threat and to underestimate our own individual ability to actually manage the threats that come up for us in our lives. This is very problematic at times like this when we are in COVID-19 and never ever experienced this before. It is a global issue. It is affecting all countries globally. And so the level of uncertainty globally right now is quite significant. And of course, because so many of us are experiencing so many layers of issues, it becomes overwhelming and debilitating if we don't stay on top of it. So the first thing that's happening right now is we're feeling quite uncertain about a lot of things. The next thing that happens when we reach a level of uncertainty is we start to come up against change. So this might be your working environment, your home environment. Like me, you might have kids coming back into your home, or you might have young kids that you're homeschooling. You may not be able to go to work. You may have a partner who's working from home, or you're working from home right now. And so we're experiencing change on pretty much every single level you could imagine. Of course, change is unavoidable and it is constant. It's happening all the time for all of us. Unfortunately, though, we are experiencing a lot of change. And so in general terms, we're able to kind of navigate change and understand that change is happening. It's not the end of the world. It's 1 or 2 areas of our lives. But right now we have change on every level. It pushes us to that reptilian part of the brain, wanting to control things, feeling like things are dangerous. We can't change very much right now. We have so little control over what is happening. And the lack of certainty, the lack of knowing when this is going to end, how it's going to end, how bad things might get, if they're going to end quickly or it's going to take a long time. So change, as I said, is unavoidable, but our lack of control over so many changes is leading a lot of people to be really distressed. What happens when we have uncertainty and changes, it takes a period of time to actually adjust to it. And so adjustment is a behavioral process. It isn't a thinking process or a feeling process. It's a behavioral process that helps us to maintain the equilibrium as our environment begins to shift and change. But it's a process, and processes take time. Sometimes processes take a long time, as this one is. You know, we don't have an end date for it. And so I think for a lot of people, if you knew it was ending in a month or 3 months or 6 weeks, it would be a bit easier to manage the adjustment to this process. But unfortunately, we don't. And as we shift to one thing and we get on top of that, then another announcement comes out and it changes again. So right now, trying to adjust to this has become incredibly challenging for all people that I'm seeing. And I work with children, parents, families. So I'm a social worker, and we work with people So psychologists work with people individually on the things that are affecting the individual person. As a social worker, I work with people in their environment, in their systems. So that means in their family system, in their community, in their school system, in the bigger community systems that are around us all. And because everything is shifting all of the time, we are struggling to be able to get a level of adjustment and balance and get back into equilibrium because things are changing all the time. So I'm going to give you some strategies that I know will assist you through this process. Like I said at the end, I'm more than happy to take questions from you, but we're going to talk about how these things that are happening, the uncertainty and the change and the adjustment process is happening, and how you can assist yourself and your family in managing this time of adjustment. So let me talk about your brain first. There are three important hormones in your brain, chemicals in your brain. Serotonin, you might have heard about, which is the stress busting and the happiness inducing chemical in your brain. Serotonin helps us to feel good about things. When our serotonin levels are reduced, it can actually make our cortisol levels, our stress hormones, increase, and that can make life really, really challenging. The next chemical that is important at the moment is dopamine, and dopamine is the reward center of the brain. It's the one that motivates us to do stuff. And without dopamine, we don't have that sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that we would normally get. And the final one, the one that is actually causing a lot of problems for a lot of people, is oxytocin, which is the connection chemical in the brain. Oxytocin is really, really important. It actually helps us to calm ourselves down. It helps us to feel like we're not alone, we're going to be okay, life's going to be fine. For some people who are isolating by themselves, not having that kind of connection with other people is really causing them a lot of distress. So now I'm going to talk about activities that you can do that will increase your serotonin, your dopamine, and your oxytocin that's going to help you feel better and manage the situation better. I can't see the chat, everyone, so I'm just hoping you're all okay because I'm sharing my screen. When I finish sharing, I will take questions from you. So if you have questions, I will absolutely answer them towards the end of this workshop. All right, so things that are going to help you. One of the most important things is the way you think about things. And when people talk to me, they say, well, I can't change the way I think. Yes, you can. At the moment, I'm seeing a lot of people who struggle with quite catastrophic thinking, people who are getting quite afraid and worried about what's going to happen next. When it comes to unhelpful thinking, some of the things you can do is limit your time doing that, or remind yourself that you're doing that. So if you get into last week, last year, last month, or next week, next month, next year, you are in a space of worry or anxiety, trying to stay in the moment will help with that. Listening to what your thoughts are and reminding yourself, well, hey, hang on a second. At the moment, I'm safe at home. At the moment, I have my family and friends. At the moment, we're able to pay the rent or the mortgage. So if you have unhelpful thinking habits, it's really helpful for you to try and not go into catastrophic thinking, but to be trying to think as reasonably as you can about stuff and to limit the time you do it. So if you're finding you're wandering and you're just drifting into a lot of ruminating and churning stuff over, change the activity, do something else that involves your brain. So you might do a crossword puzzle, you might count back in threes from 100. Anything that engages your brain will give you a bit of a break from unhelpful thinking. It's helpful to talk about the problems you're having and not dive deeply into the feelings. So if you get into, I'm really scared, I'm feeling really anxious, I get really angry. So if you're in the feelings rather than the problems, that might elevate the way you're thinking and feeling. So looking at what is the problem may be, oh wow, I can't pay my rent, or I can't pay my mortgage, or I've got to homeschool my kids, or I can't go to work, or I have to go to work, depending on, what line of work you have and what you're doing at the present time or your partner is doing. So looking at, okay, well, how do I pay the rent? Can I contact the landlord? Can I contact my bank? Can I negotiate something? Can Centrelink assist me if I'm based in Australia? So looking at the problem rather than diving deeply into the feelings, because that is going to leave you quite distressed. And try to stress out of being stressed out, or try not to get anxious about feeling anxious or worried about being worried. And lots of people do this. So they start to have really strong feelings, they jump into the feelings and they stay there too long. And what happens is it becomes this really awful churning experience that is quite distressing. So be compassionate with yourself. If you're feeling like, hey, this is a tough day, I'm not coping really well, try and just remember that it will change. Give yourself some time, be self-compassionate, do some self-care, and that will hopefully lift you out of that. Some other things that can help is stay connected to people who matter to you. Now, this might be difficult if you're isolating. You may not be able to go and be with the people you care about. You can do this via Skype or Messenger, or you can use some of the software apps that will help you to have video conferencing calls or telephone calls. So try to stay connected. That's going to increase your oxytocin. It's going to help to calm you and soothe you. The boring things like sleep well, 7 to 8 hours a night, eat well, and move your body. So try and lay off the sugar and the carbohydrates. It will peak you up, but you'll crash down. I have a lot of people talking to me at the moment about just eating a lot more and being a bit more bored. So they're eating a lot of food they maybe wouldn't normally and not moving so much. It's going to really impact your mood quite a bit. And moving. And there's 1,000 ways of doing that, right? One of the best ways is get outside into the sunshine and walk for 23 minutes. That's going to increase your serotonin. Making sure that you exercise. You've got YouTube. You can do Tai Chi. You can do yoga. You can do, HIIT aerobics. You can do tons of different things. What I suggest is you try and move at least for 30 minutes, once or twice a day. It will help a lot, and it will also help you sleep a bit better. Remind yourself that you have survived every single challenge in your life so far. And I think people forget this, that up until this moment, you have had many challenges, many things you've had to adjust to and change to across your lifespan, and you've survived every single one of them. This challenge that we're currently facing is possibly one of the most unusual, but we're all doing this together. And remembering that this is a global situation. Everybody is doing the best they can. If you are based in Australia or New Zealand, we are very fortunate right now. If you're in other parts of the world, it is more challenging depending on where you are. But try to think about the things that you have been able to do, that you have survived so far, and that really helps your brain remember that you are accomplished and that you have gotten through really tough things, and that you're probably going to get through this tough thing as well. All right. Some other things that are really important are things like rituals and routines, especially if you have a family. And, when everybody's routine is thrown away, we're not getting up for school or work, we might not be going out to our work or our schools. So our routines can really get thrown out. I'm encouraging people to try really hard to get into bed at around the same time every day and get up at around the same time every day. I encourage you to get dressed up as if you are going out for the day rather than sitting in your pajamas, which a lot of people are telling me they're doing. Try and make sure you have your meals at the same time every day. If you have little kids, try and have rituals and routines that help them to know that things are still predictable and they know when things are going to happen. Those things can really help us manage uncertainty. So try really hard to include rituals and routines in your life. A ritual that we're having in our family now is that every single day, no matter what, we all sit down and eat together for dinner. This is a really important ritual for us. It means we all stop what we're doing, we come together, we sit down and eat and we talk. My daughter has a ritual now at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She finishes her university work and goes and sits down and does some colouring and painting. My 2 boys have got rituals around exercise in the morning and the evening, doing stretches and things. So just try and put into your life some routines and rituals. It helps to really to manage the day and make it a little bit more predictable. This is a time for many of us that we wouldn't normally have. We're normally rushing, trying to juggle lots of different things. Right now, you probably have more time on your hands than you have in a long, long, long time. You can learn a new skill or do a hobby that you love. I've been doing a ton of gardening. I've been doing those mindful coloring in books that I find really relaxing. I've upped my self-care, so I'm doing more meditations and relaxation, more breathing exercises. You could learn a new skill. YouTube is your friend. There are so many different things you can learn. You could do something that maybe you've been putting off for a long time because you didn't have time to do it. But try to fill your time up rather than sitting around watching the news. Please do not sit around watching the news. It is, do it first thing in the morning or end of the day, but just limit the time you do it, especially for kids. They watch the news and it can be very frightening for children. It's really important for us as adults to manage what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and to make sure that we are managing our responses to what we see and hear, because for children it can be incredibly frightening, especially kids under about 8 or 9. Those kids are going to find it really distressing just because of where they're at developmentally, and it can be really scary. So just be really, really mindful about limiting your exposure to the news. Your brain can get really overwhelmed and overloaded if you are watching an awful lot of the news, especially the global news, which can be quite challenging. All right, final things to remember are things like try to focus on what you value instead of your fears. And when I talk about values, I value family, I value freedom, I value happiness, I value love. My values are important to me. And when I move in a valued position, when I move towards the things that are in line with my values, my life is richer and more meaningful. When I am coming from a space of fear, it can be really debilitating. And oftentimes when I work with clients, I talk about fear meaning false evidence appearing real. And so fear can sometimes really elevate us up, and we get into a space of acting as if something really bad is happening right now. An antidote for that is to stay in your present moment. Bring yourself back to what is happening right this second. What can I hear? What can I see? What can I smell? What can I taste? What can I touch? But coming right back into this very second and reminding yourself, in this moment, I am very safe. In this moment, I am healthy and well. In this moment, I'm employed. In this moment, whatever it is that is going on for you at any given moment, come back to the present moment. And when you do that, it is incredibly helpful. It helps you to let go of some of that catastrophic thinking. It helps you to let go of fear, and you sit and think about, okay, what is my value position here? What is important to me in my life, in my family, in my community? What is important to me? The other thing is, please try to remove the expectation that we are going to have stability. I know that many of us really want that. Many of us are craving that. The lack of stability can feel really unstabilizing. So it's really important to understand that we can't expect stability right now, even though that's what we want, and what many of us really need is to feel like things are more stable than they are. It's important for all of us to remember that right now we can't expect to have stability. We just can't. All right. I'm going to be taking your questions in a little while, but before I do, I want to also talk to you about what happens if you are not feeling great and things are looking worse and worse every day. So it's really important for you, and if you have children as well, to be just mindful of some things that are starting to be fairly persistent or getting worse, and nothing that you do is making it better. These things to look out for are really important, and you do need to speak to your doctor if this is ongoing. So for me, if you feel like this for a couple of weeks, I would be concerned, and I would be looking at having a chat with your doctor. So if your mood is lower, if you're feeling, if you're normally quite bubbly and positive, but your mood has dropped, or you normally have a lower mood and it's dropped further, then you should be talking to your doctor. Being tearful in and of itself is not the end of the world, but if it's coming up with a couple of these other things on here, I would be mindful of that and start to think about getting some help. If you're having feelings of both hopelessness and helplessness, so if you're feeling like this is never going to end, I don't think I can cope with this, or things like that that are ongoing, if you're getting nervous or worried or jittery, so feelings of anxiety that are a bit overwhelming, and 1 in 3 people in Australia experiences anxiety, and it's about degrees of that. So check in with yourself. What's my mood like today? 0 to 5, 5 being I'm really good, 0 being my mood is really low. Just check in with yourself. If you're noticing that in family members, check in with them. How are you going? How are you feeling? And just be mindful. And of course, for children, a fear of separation from attachment figures, so from parents and carers, it can be normal given the circumstances, but be mindful if they kind of have gone back to an earlier stage in development where they're quite clingy and they don't want to be away from you. If you are experiencing any of those things, but particularly if you're experiencing 3 or more of those things and it's ongoing for at least a few weeks, I would be talking to your doctor about that. Now, I was asked to discuss with you what help is available to you. So, and I'm going to come to your questions in a moment, everyone. So basically, you can get help. Up until Monday, you could get completely free help if you were based in Australia. The government made an announcement earlier in April saying that there was free mental health services for everybody in Australia who met the criteria. They changed that on Monday. So you are still eligible to get some free services within Australia. So if you are struggling and you really need some help, whether that's adjusting to a work situation, a family situation, or a financial situation, if you're self-isolating, if you're in a vulnerable group, you can contact your general practitioner. They're doing telehealth at the moment, so you can contact them and do that over the phone. You have an appointment with your GP, explain how you're thinking and feeling, and you can request a mental health care plan from your doctor. That will entitle you to 10 mental health sessions that are Medicare rebatable across this year. The mental health care plans are renewed every year in January, so you can have ongoing help if you need it, but 10 every year if you meet the criteria. Before we did this workshop, I'm in contact with quite a number of private practitioners in Australia, all around Australia, who provide services, myself included, and many of them have agreed to offer some bulk billing services to this company. So if you are feeling that you need some extra help, then what you're going to do is contact your GP, get a mental health care plan. You can ask for a referral to a specific person, or your GP can refer you to somebody they would like to refer you to, but you can request a specific mental health professional that you want to work with. The vast majority will charge you a gap fee now, but there are practitioners who do bulk bill, so you can ask your doctor if he can refer or she can refer you to a mental health professional who is bulk billing, or if you would like to contact me, I am more than happy to organise a referral for you to a practitioner that a colleague of mine that I can refer you to. Right now, we're doing telehealth, so all sessions are done on a platform like this, which is Zoom. This is an encrypted site, which means it is safe to have conversations. They're password coded, and so if you are needing to have a mental health referral, you will most likely right now be doing those appointments via telehealth. All right, we're going to move to Q&A now, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see what the questions, and we'll see what the questions are in here. All right, so if you have a question for me in relation to anything that I have said and you would like me to answer your question, please do pop it into the chat right now. I saw some hands going up before, but I don't see any questions in there. So if you would like to ask me any questions in relation to any part of the sorry, I'm So I'm trying to work out what I'm doing here. So if you're looking, going, what is she doing? I'm trying to work out what I'm doing, because I can see hands going up, but I can't see any questions at all. So if you have a question for me, could you help me out and just pop it into the chat for me so that I can read them, because I can't find your Q&As, unfortunately. Teresa, just sharing a resource that there is a free course from Yale at the moment about the science of well-being that is quite helpful. And there are lots and lots and lots of things available at the moment, Teresa. So yeah, do have a look around. I also provided for your company a mental health and wellbeing survival guide for COVID-19 that I've provided to your organisation if you are interested in that. It covers all sorts of things. It's been written by myself and a number of my colleagues in relation to lots of different aspects: relationship issues, finances, helping your kids. There's a lot of good information inside of that. Amy, just wondering if the slides can be emailed out to us. Not really sure. I'd have to speak to the organisation for you, because I'm not really sure. So I can ask them about that for you. Okay, I see some questions. Okay. Debbie, do you have someone you can refer to us in Melbourne who bulbs? I most certainly do, Susan. And what I will do is, if you would like to contact me, I think that my email was provided for people. I will definitely give you the email addresses and the contacts of people in Melbourne who may be able to assist you if you want a mental health care plan. Are there any free mental health services for kids not coping well and staying home from school? Yes, there are. Absolutely, there are. The mental health care plans do apply to children. I work with families and I work with kids. Telehealth is a bit more challenging for when the kids get a bit younger, but I do have plenty of practitioners who do work with kids and families online. So yes, you can get a mental health care plan for a child as well as for adults. And like I said, especially around adjusting, so the adjustment issues can be quite, for children, can be quite intense, and it's good just to pop on and manage them quite early if you can. But yes, if you have children that you need a referral for, please do contact me and I will do my best to get you a referral to somebody in your local area or somebody online who might be able to assist you with that. But yeah, I definitely can refer you to somebody who's under 10. All right. Are there any more questions for me? Any comments that you would like to make? Anything you would like me to clarify? If there is, please pop it into the chat or pop it into the Q&A box, and I will answer that for you. I'm just wondering how I, oh, okay. How I manage, I'm now trying to work out how I dismiss these. There we go, like that. All right, I'm just trying to work out the technology, everyone. So I'm not great with technology, I'm afraid. Okay, if you have any more questions or anything else that you'd like me to clarify, please go ahead and ask. If not, we will finish this off quite early, and I'm more than happy to stay on and answer questions if you would like me to. And if not, then I'm happy to close off the workshop for now. Let me see. Andrew, not a question, but to let you know, you've reassured me that my family and I are doing the right thing during this time. That's great, Andrew. I'm really glad that that was helpful and that it helps you to be reassured. Like I said, it's a time of adjustment, and so that can be really challenging. And it is about trying to get, especially if you have, if you're at home with your families, it's hard to get back into a routine. Those rituals and routines can really help everybody keep a bit sane. Let me see the rest of the questions. Want to know ways to be happy in tough times. And Saritha, I guess trying to be happy is really intriguing. So sometimes we're told to just look on the positive side, just stay upbeat and happy. I guess that's something you could do, but for some people that can feel really challenging and hard. I think there are tons of ways to inject some lightness into your life. You can watch, we know that if you watch something funny and you laugh, that laughter is a massive antidote to feeling really low. So you can watch YouTube clips that are funny, a movie that's funny, listening to comedians. You can tell jokes with your family. You can look at gratitude. Gratitude is shown historically in research to improve our level of happiness. So gratitude around what we do have. But I think it's really important to remember that in tough times, it's okay to also not feel good. And that you can, try and stay on the up and up, which is really helpful. Exercise, sleep, self-care, self-compassion. doing things that are pleasurable, reading books that are uplifting, reading poetry that's uplifting, other things. But at the end of the day, if you're not feeling great, that's okay too. And I think we just need to be a bit gentle with ourselves, because it is a tough time right now, and something that none of us have experienced before. Let me just see. How can you access the resources you've written that you've just talked about? Teresa, I think the booklet is available to your organisation. You can ask them about it, or you can send me an email. My email was on this webinar, I think, and I will most definitely send you the link to it. Let me see. Thank you. It's been really informative and helpful. Love the fear, false evidence appearing real. Yep, me too. I think that's a really good acronym, and it helps us just remember that not everything that we fear is real, and some of it is in our head. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lots of thank yous, which is great. That's no problem. And thank you all. It looks like that is the end of the questions. Whoops, no, there's one down here. Let me just have a see. How can we get your email? I can type it into the chat for you right now if you like. There is my email right there. You can get it from your organisation too. They have my email address, but I've just popped it in for you there. And like I said, if you're wanting a mental health care plan, you can ask to see anybody who you want to see, a referral when you go to your doctor. You can request someone. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming today. I hope that that was helpful for you. Please do email me if you are looking for a referral or you need the booklet if you're not able to get it from your organisation. Take care, everyone, and look after yourself during COVID and your family. Thank you very much. Bye.